Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Ed Sinestro, and I'm here with a guest of Sam G. He's a comic book artist, and he's gonna tell his story how he got into comic book, um, drawing comics, and how he come up with his publication. So how you been?
I'm good. Uh, yeah, so when I was in college, I decided that I didn't want to be an engineer, so I decided to make comics instead. And I spent like 10 extra years trying to learn everything I could to make stuff. And yeah, started working for VoiceMe a couple years ago. It's a web comic company. Uh, I'm no longer working for them, but I have started making a series for them independently by myself. And yeah, that's really it. I've always liked to tell stories and stuff, so it's
Okay.
just a matter of chasing a living.
All right. Is this recent comic that you did what's the name of it again? I forgot.
Savage Arcana. It's
Savage.
like honestly, the original name for it was called Street Magic. It's kind of like, yeah, so there's like gangs, and it's like a modern take on what magic could be if it was like more analogous to our technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, so there's like a bunch of different things that affect the world and all stuff like that. So actually, there's an episode that was just released like 2 hours ago. And
oh,
there's two or three more in the pilot run, I believe.
oh,
And then, yeah, it's gonna be up to the viewers, like number of views and things like that. Yeah, so the main character in this has a in this world there is like a magical pollution. So the more humans use magic, the more it warps reality around them. And when that happens, it creates like a honestly different races and species all across. So like anthropomorphizes animals. So there's like a snake who's a main character in this, and things like that. And then it follows the fact that, or it centers around a girl who has access to the Savage Arcana, or the magic that was created by the pollution itself, that like generally humans can't use. So she's like special in that kind of way. And yeah, it's really just a mentor relationship, but it's like a broken mentor relationship where the student is now trying to get the mentor back on their feet and away from the situations that they're in. It's kind of like a story.
okay.
Through that, they get thrown into a bunch of ever like ever increasing stakes in battle and fights at the end.
Oh. So how you come up with this? This is kind of it's not like something I come across all the time.
Uh, Honestly, it was the fact that most times magic in stories is like a trump card, for lack of a better word. Like it's like, here's my ex machina, right? Like I'm just gonna fix this with magic. Well, I like the idea that magic is actually the cause of a lot of the problems, but it's not because of it's dangerous or something like that. It's because using it creates a byproduct. I was also really mad at Game of Thrones when I came up with this story, so I set out to tell a more realistic. I know it sounds ridiculous because it's magic and stuff like that, but a more realistic view of what pollution does to the world. To climate change and stuff like that is kind of the
Oh,
core
okay.
of the whole story. It just centers around this person who can do something that most people can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I read some of it. It seemed kind of interesting. There's a one character. He's like a vampire.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I made So the story basically revolves around the main character. Her name is Alethanos. It means genuine, and it's a subgenus of snake. That's why I named her that, because genuine. Anyway, but I also did a lot of things so the dog can like smell magic, and this vampire guy, I figured a cop should be a vampire because they have to be invited into buildings, and I thought that
Yeah.
would be a funny kind of like joke, poking more fun at these detectives and stuff like that, being like he is restricted by magic itself to do certain things. So, it was mostly the fact that they had to ask to come into buildings, and I thought that was like a fun restriction we could put on law enforcement officers. So one of them was vampire.
Does he have?
Yeah,
Does he have?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you, what does he have powers like other vampires in other stories?
Yeah. So basically, everybody, so anyone who's not human has a different form of Savage Arcana, and it's basically their bodies adapting to the pollution in the air and learning how to like instinctually utilize it. So it's just something human beings can't do. For vampires, they can like smell blood, they can fly, they can transform into bats, they can hypnotize people, all the like standard vampire things. But at this point, they've been around for so long that sunlight doesn't really affect them anymore, things like that. The dog can smell different kinds of magic, so we have what I call Savage vision, which is just a black and white like version of the shot, but the magic trails and smelling, things like that. Zombies can like remove body parts. That's gonna be fun. Like someone can like put a ear down and listen to stuff like that.
Oh.
And then animals all have think of these animals or as like zoo or pet animals, like they're around civilization, so they didn't like turn into these crazy. And in general, the world is kind of like separated into these giant mega cities that are separated by this super vast giant jungle. And I like the idea of like, so it's magic causing a problem. So I thought it would be interesting, instead of like it being wasteland, which it always is, it's now like this uncontrollable growth, and it's just like the most dangerous jungle on the planet, but it's the entire planet. And only small pockets of civilization still exist. It's kind of how it like played out. But yeah, I don't know how I come up with it. A lot of it's just, honestly, it's either based off of what the scientific factors it would take. My degree is in biomedical engineering, so I have a lot of like practical things. Most people's like body structures and stuff are appropriate for the feats that they're going to do. Like the main character is a woman, but she's definitely got a six-pack because she's supposed to be like, she was trained as raised as this like warrior to protect herself, so she's ready to basically fight most people. I don't know, I've always just kind of liked these stories. Big fan of both Eastern and Western like cartoons and comics, so all of it kind of blends together. I'm a big fan of, I like silly jokes but ridiculously big and intense sort of situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it really. I don't know if a lot of these ideas just come from me either watching or reading something else, and thinking
Oh,
about how something would change, or if I tweaked one factor, what would happen, like how would it affect this world and stuff like that.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, Salvage Arcane is like more like a wasteland. That's the definition of it.
So I describe it as an arcane dystopia. So
Okay.
it's like Judge Dredd, where like people live in these mega cities, these things that are like everything around it is just nothing, right? But these like giant buildings with all of these things, and like that's the general
Yeah.
idea. We just shifted that so our technology was powered by magical things. So instead of like cell phones, everybody has a mirror. It's just like an enchanted piece of glass, and you can get
Okay.
different like glyphs on your glass, and those are your apps, and they all do different things, stuff like that.
What?
That I can play around with. Um,
What?
but yeah, that's really how I do stuff for the most part.
Oh. Well, what was it about magic that kind of made you want to do it?
I've always been into fantasy and sci-fi and things like that. Anytime there's like superpowers and an adventure, I'm in for the most part. So, um, yeah,
Oh.
basically how it
So,
works.
did you do the illustrations?
Say that again.
Did you do the illustrations?
I did all the character designs. I actually have a team working with me on the illustrations
Okay.
for this one. I am currently in the pre-production process for a solo story that I'm doing.
Yeah.
That won't be out for the next month or two. But
Oh.
I also found that I like to use backgrounds more than most webcomic people. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just I like to tell the story in the background and people kind of realize things rather than force them to see, like, to go through it. So, like, yeah, this is actually how that shot you have in the
Yeah.
background, all the different races, and I didn't realize my hands. But yeah, those
Okay.
are all the different races and the like people and like when they started to show up in order. It's like a timeline, so you can see that and you know more about the story. Just so that's kind of the idea behind it
Okay.
all.
So is
Um,
there like a villain in it?
uh, not particularly. Yes, there is. Right now, it's going to be um, the leader of a. So the story is that the snake Gordon has a pretty checkered past, and he's pissed off a major gang in the city.
Yeah.
And the story right now is that Left and Gordon are now dealing with, like, made a deal with that gang to clear their slate. So they're now like involved in this job, and it turns out that a rival gang is now in it, right? So the first whole story really is there's two storylines. There's Leth and her like trying to free Gordon from his past. And then there's the cops and them investigating the theft of the larval seed. So at the end we'll find out how that whole situation sort of plays out. I do have it kind of in my head set up like a Boondock Saint structure where like you see the event and then you see the investigation afterwards, go back and forth. Um, at least until like the lines cross, right? And then the story becomes one. That's kind of how the structure is going to be currently. Um, yeah, and
But
that's good.
no, I was gonna ask, like, how did he turn into a snake? Through magic,
No,
of
he was
course,
just
right?
always a snake.
Yeah,
So the magic
that's
mutates
wild.
animals in things. Yeah, so there's a tiger. That's a character. I have a bunch of characters that are just animals, and they all have
It's
like a different version of the Savage Arcana because it's based off of their like defense mechanisms and instincts. Like dogs, their bark is worse than their bite. They can send out like a concussive bark to like blast people away instead.
mm,
Stuff like that. Little jokes, little play on the reality of the situation, things like that.
so he has a drinking problem.
He does. He's got PTSD. He was a soldier. So at like Gordon is old. Gordon actually taught Leth how to use all of their magic because he's a snake and he actually has the capability of doing it. He was a friend of. There's more to it that will be revealed. I don't want to like, give
Okay, all right.
too much away, but yeah, he's got a drinking problem and PTSD. But he was in the military and he was a friend of her parents, essentially.
Okay. All right. And how long did it take you to develop this story?
The story took, I don't know, a year or so on and off. The art was 3 months or so for this first run, doing all of the backgrounds and stuff. So art-wise, I do the backgrounds to finish editing the layout and the lettering for it. So I end up having end control of most of this, but I do have a drafter, inker, and a color.
Now, like, how many stories this is? Seems like
This
an epic.
first run is going to be 7 episodes. Then it's going to be up to Voice Me whether they're going to continue to fund it or not. And if they don't,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to redo them all myself, but I have no idea about that.
Yeah.
I'm happy either way. But for the most part, I'll be focusing on the series I'm currently developing, and then we're finishing out this one to see how it goes.
This look like it could be a animated series or something like
That's
that.
the goal. Actually, Voice Me has a competition to make a bunch of comics into an animated series. So if you go on to Voice Me and go to this series, you can vote so it can maybe get there. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it would be a pretty cool situation. There's lots of really intricate action scenes with the snakes and all their magic and things like that. But yeah.
So, like you said that you had a background in what, like in engineering, or I'm
Yep.
sorry, I
have a BS from I have BS in biomedical engineering. So prosthetics and pacemakers and MRI machines and stuff like that.
when did you?
Like all the tools your doctor uses, that's what they do.
Oh, okay. When did you decided to create comics?
My last year in college, I just didn't want to be an engineer. I made that decision a little late, so I finished, and then I just taught myself how to do everything else I'm doing currently.
You never went to school for like art or nothing like that? No? Get out of here.
That's just 10 years of bashing my head against the wall. Yeah, I didn't start drawing until I was like 24-ish consistently. Just
Yeah?
continue.
How old are you now?
32.
Oh, okay. So you do like the character design. You don't really like draw like the scenes or nothing like that. You have
I
somebody.
have. I make all the
Okay.
backgrounds for the Savage Arcana series, but for the series I'm developing, that is going to be I'm going to do everything myself. So that's going to be start to finish. The whole thing's going
Oh.
to be. It's about a skeleton
What
bard,
what like? Oh,
so he can't
I was
talk.
gonna ask you like.
Okay.
Oh. No, I was gonna ask you like what tools do you work with in doing it?
Oh, I use Clip Studio Paint for the most part.
Oh,
Sometimes I'll throw Blender in there to make some like 3D models or something like that. But
yeah.
most of it's just done in Clip, to be honest with you. It's a pretty solid program. It's actually built specifically to work or to make comics. It's a program made for it, so it's got it has all the bubbles, tools, and things built in. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard with Blender. I thought it was just for animation because somebody told me about it. And I have like a book at my nearest library that I work at, and I just seen like the Blender, like how to like animate stuff. It's
Yeah,
more like 3D
it's just a
type.
3D modeling program.
Yeah, yeah.
So like if I wanted to make a building and I wanted the whole thing and I wanted to be able to reuse that building over and over again, I would make a 3D model of it and then just drop it in place where I needed it to help make backgrounds easier and faster, things like that.
So like how many like is this only you that creates it or you have another
So
team?
I did I make up everything and write
Oh,
everything. But all this background stuff was me. It's mostly just what I like to do is I photo bash a bunch of images together. So I basically make a collage and then I draw over those and adjust it. And then I get all the black and white in, and then someone else comes in.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, the graphics is cool to this though.
Yeah, we're trying. It's supposed to have like sort of a ravey fever dream kind of feel, so that's kind of what we're going for. Lots of like rainbow colors and effects and stuff like that.
You don't publish it as a book?
Maybe I'd have to put it together in the right format, which I'm relatively familiar with, so I could totally do it. I just want to see how it does.
Okay. Like how often do you draw?
So I'm done with all of the character designs that we needed.
Yeah.
For the first run, but now, I'll be making more soon enough for the next bit. Yeah, I like to try to do things in a variety of formations, tools that can change, things like that. Everything's kind of a Swiss Army knife.
Is anime like mostly like your inspiration of drawing?
No, honestly, it's old. It's American comic books because of the variety of styles, but
Yeah.
I love manga and anime and stuff like that. But I also really don't make a distinction between the difference. They're just a style difference, and I feel that because like I'm from the States, so my style I feel just blends because I've been influenced by both Eastern and Western comic creations. I like more of the indie Western stuff, like Image or IDW, things that are, well, IDW is not independent, but like Dynamite, the series that are kind of off the wall kind of stuff. But yeah, that's really where I get most of it from. It tends to blend because there's part of the idea is to target part of the Eastern audiences, you know. But I also think that it's not so much style that dictates if somewhere else takes it. It's more the story and how it relates to everybody around, right? So I just think it's a matter of like, I've heard from a few people that American comic industries are dead, and I disagree because it's just, and there is some attribute that failing to style, which it wasn't and isn't. And I think if you spread that kind of idea throughout the rest of the world, it's like, yeah, change everything up. It doesn't need to be like this rigid format that we've all been trained to use, right? We're gonna kind of find things in the middle because those tend to be my favorite. Like, I grew up on Bruce Timm, like Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, I used to like that cartoon.
So, like, I watched everything, every American, every Japanese, anything animated, I would consume. And I love comic books as a whole. The medium is just kind of the perfect way to tell a story, I think. So,
I notice, a lot of people like in Western society, they're more adapted to manga. I mean, the anime and like the drawing style to it.
Yeah.
Like so before, it wasn't like that.
No, I mean, okay, so I could get into the history of it where, like, American GIs brought over comic books during World War I or during World War II, and they got left there, and then Japan's like natural artistic sort of culture latched onto that, and then they started developing more and more. The reason mangas are black and white is because it's cheaper, and it's just like an industry. There's not a specific reason. So, since Japan wouldn't make colored comics for the most part, people had to learn to use different like blacks and gray tones. So you just learn how to do art differently in that kind of sense, right? And then that gets brought over to America, and then it starts affecting how we make comics, and like it's a back and forth, it's a trade. At the end of the day, anime just means animation. It's all cartoons.
Right.
Like, that's what it is. Manga just means comic. Is it? It is the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all just telling telling stories with pictures. It's like at the end of the day, that's really what it is. So to me, there are a lot of cool things you can take from both sides, and to like disregard one or the other, to say one or the other is not or better is, I feel, inherently wrong, but that's just my own opinion. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, you can like it more, you can have an opinion on it, but at the end of the day, there's a huge difference between like the quality of a series and the art in the series and the style of the art in the series. That sort of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, growing up, like, I remember like the first manga series that I seen was on Battle of the Planets.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know, you familiar with that? The G-Force?
I think I am. Yeah, I don't.
There was like these teenagers, like think about the Power Rangers, but with like bird suits and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and they had like a space jet that it turns into a phoenix or something like that. I remember.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I watched Voltron and
yeah,
all of that stuff,
yeah,
whatever series I could get a hold of.
yeah. Voltron was the shit back then
It
in the
really was.
'80s and stuff.
I loved
Yeah,
Voltron. It was real good. It was going back and watching those series is rough, but like there's also like if you go back and watch like old school like Appleseed, like the animation, like people just don't do that stuff anymore. Like you just
yeah,
can't. It's too. You got to make a profit. It's too like you got to make money. You can't really like buy in and make your own things anymore. So I don't know. It's an
yeah,
interesting concept though. The whole difference between the two, but again, it was all on Cartoon Network. You know, like it was all on Toonami. Everybody like you watched all of it, so it was all. It all just kind of blends.
mm,
I like the variety. There's no reason to stay stuck on one side or the other.
yeah.
So
Like,
yeah,
what's
this
your
sort of leans slightly more east than my natural style because it's other people's wrong. And that's where most people kind of lean their stylistic practices to current. And I'm just trying to prove that it should. Differences are important. You're supposed to try and make different things. Not everything should look the same.
right? Yeah. So, do you have like a particular artist that you like?
Yeah, I love Fiona Staples. She did a saga for Image. That's really good. She also
Okay.
did the Archie comics for a little bit. Like that was pretty cool. Another one I really like is Scotty Young. But like hands down favorite manga of all time is Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x
So
Hunter.
what? I didn't get that one.
Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. Those are
Oh, okay.
my top picks. Sadly, I can never remember his name, but I'm just really bad with Japanese names. So,
Did you ever thought about like going to school, like to just like work on your art or something like that? I don't know.
uh, honestly, I'm gonna just keep making stuff. Like I have a lot of friends in the industry and we talk a lot, so I learn the things that they come up with, and like I have no problem asking them, like, "Hey, I got to do this thing. How do I do it?" And I know plenty of people that can help out with that. And it's really a matter of doing it and telling it. And I already have the images in my head, so
Yeah,
it's about getting the paper to look sort of close.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to try to make my own comic, but and I had a little bit of schooling a little bit in art, but it's not easy trying to make your own comic.
It's not.
So
It's a lot of effort. It takes a
like
lot of time.
how was the process for you? Like just like putting it all in paper and just like developing these characters and stuff.
I mean, it's a journey. I don't know how to. It's you go all over the place. You try a bunch of different things. You keep trying. Like you rewrite stuff. I don't know how many times I've rewritten the exact series over and over again. Like I'm gonna change this one piece, but I'm gonna rewrite the entire script. So it's all about playing with stuff. And it's all kind of a machine to me. Like
Yeah,
it's all got to work together to do the thing it's supposed to. So I look at it all as like parts and trying to get all those individual parts to work together.
yeah. Do you go like to comic conventions?
I have been before. I'm not a huge fan of like being a consumer at one because
Yeah.
it's very crowded, and I'm not a big fan of that. But I have been thinking about getting a booth in the near future, but
Yeah, I
I'll
know.
make that decision later.
Yeah, a lot of people they like the New York Comic Con for
Yeah,
some
I would
reason.
probably do Rose City, which is in Portland, where I live. I live out on the West Coast.
Where are you located at?
In Portland, so the
Oh,
West Coast.
Portland. Oh, all right, all right. Yeah, I'm in New York City. I mean, the last comic convention, like it was like since 2012, I was there, and it was crowded, and people, it was wearing a lot of costumes and stuff.
Yep.
Like a lot of women, they'll wear like female characters like Shatara and
Yeah,
um
cosplay is always a big thing. Yeah.
yeah. So like, what's the future of this? Like, are you creating like another story? I think you said that earlier, right?
I did.
You,
Yeah, I am making another story.
okay. Is it like a superhero one or?
It's not. It's another magic fantasy one, but it's okay. So it's called The Ballad of Orpheus, and it's a skeleton bard questing to retrieve a stolen voice. So the idea is he's a bard that can't talk because he pissed someone off who went to, and then they stole his voice, and now he's traveling the empire trying to do that. Really like
Okay.
super Greek influence because of like the Orpheus bard being dead kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of silly, basically based off of bad D&D characters like a gnome barbarian and things that like just don't make sense. A robot druid, things that's like what? So that's kind of where that one's at. I'm almost done with the character designs. I'll be drafting probably within the next week or so, and then I was gonna give myself a month or two to get a backlog. So hopefully December, January-ish would be like being released on a regular basis, but don't know just yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wish you good luck on your journey, man. Like, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, I think that's a wrap. I mean, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you, and yeah, good luck with your stuff.
yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Do you have any shout outs you want to give?
Uh, everybody check out my series and vote for it and things like that. I need all the numbers I can get. So
Yeah.
the more votes and the more views, the more likely I can make more of it. So
Now, for one more thing, like, how does this work? Like, you just like order the webtoon thing, the web comic.
you just go and read it
All right.
on the site on voice.me, voyce.me. Called
The link
Savage.
that you gave me before.
Yeah, and
Oh, okay.
I've worked for that. I worked for that company for 2 years, so a lot of their other series I worked on and done. That's
Okay. Yeah, I was checking it out. I was reading it, just to see what's it about. Yeah, it's kind of, it's not. I mean, like, not your typical story. So
yeah. I tend not to write the typical thing. I like to
right.
play with the tropes and turn them around and stuff. So.
Yeah, yeah. So how would they know? Like, it just tells you that people read it.
Yeah, every time you go through an episode, it'll rack up a view.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
like you can like it, you can subscribe it. There's a contest now, so there should be like a little button on the side that you can vote for.
It's something like you. It's like YouTube or something like that.
Yep, very similar. Kind of, it's just
Okay.
like Webtoon or any of the other webcomic readers and sites. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Yeah.
All
But
right.
anyway, thanks a lot, man. If you want to come
Thank you.
back, we could talk again in the future. It's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm down.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in.